lively League One roundup to come here. NTT20 podcast sponsored by Sky Bet and the Sky Bet EFL Building Foundations Fund. The third tiers weekend saw 44 goals, 2 hat-tricks, 1 sacking. First game we'll talk about had a hat-trick and a sacking and 7 goals. Peterborough 6, Wigan 1. From a Peterborough point of view, first and foremost, because we're going to get into Ryan Lowe's Wigan departure. Your winger, who's just starting to come to the boil, scores 2 in the first half. Not only that, they're both assisted by your centre-back, which is a fun quirk. Tom Lees, for the first one, turning into John Stones.
Across that.
Yeah, 14 assists in 620 professional games, league games. 2 in 1 half here. Your 2 central
2
attackers.
in 9 minutes.
Incredible. Your 2 central attacking players, Leonard and Jimmy J. Morgan, both assist each other for goals for the third and the fourth. Brilliant. Then you bring off the bench a 21-year-old striker that you recalled in January after he scored 1 million in non-league. He scores his first goal with a really nice take. And to top it off, the aforementioned wide man seals his hat-trick with the 6th. His name, Kyrell Lisby. George Ellick, I put it to you, this was quite a bad week for someone to comment on Spotify. Maybe I'm being miserable, but the Lisby talk on every podcast this season is getting tiresome.
What are we meant to do? Like, you got one of the main characters in League 2, one of the main characters in League 1, are both called Lisby. So there's nothing we can do about it, I'm afraid.
Twins! Everyone loves twins. Twins are universally
it's a twins
interesting.
Thing.
If you're not interested in twins, I don't want to talk to you.
Okay, well, let's ignore the fact that Lisby scored a hat-trick here, playing wide left. No, let's not, because it was a great moment. What I loved, there was one of the goals. I think it was... which goal was it? There were so many of them.
First one, back post tap in, classic Lisby.
I'm talking about the celebration of one of them where you just had these like 4 kids sitting together on the advertising hoardings, just looking so young. It was Lisby, Morgan.
Kids looking so young.
Leonard.
Oh, the players?
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about ball boys.
No, after they scored, I think it must have been Leonard's goal. Leonard, Morgan, Lisby, and Dornley all sat in a line on the advertising hoardings, and he looked at me and you're all so young here.
Peterborough United 101.
And yet in League One you are seeing off Wigan 6-1. A brilliant ball from Leeds for the first goal. Second was a knockdown from Leeds, which Lisby finished at the back post. So yeah, Lisby with a couple of good finishes from the Leeds assists. The goal I want to just quickly mention, after Joe Taylor had got one back for Wigan was Morgan's, where it was just a strange goal where he lobbed Tickle, and Sam Tickle did that thing that goalkeepers sometimes do when they think they're beaten, where they performatively don't move.
Yeah.
And so he stood there and he watched it completely stationary, thinking it was going in, and then it hit the woodwork. And had he just reacted normally and run back towards goal, he'd have got there first. But Morgan, who carried on running, therefore when the ball came off the bar, he was there first and managed to tap it home.
Dunked on him, didn't he?
Yes. A brilliant display from Peterborough. It felt like last week at Wigan was just, from a PR perspective at the very least, just a total disaster. Every noise coming out of the club was the opposite of what the fans wanted to hear. And I am I genuinely think it when fans start talking about wanting to lose games because they need a change to happen. I'm very against that. But it felt like something this categorically bad was in essence taking Wigan Athletic by the shoulders, shaking them and saying, realise what's going on here, and force them to make a change that I'm not sure necessarily felt forthcoming, like it was about to happen before then.
When he had the
thrashed.
public display of support from Gregor Rioch the other week, didn't he? Who said he was backing Ryan Lowe and they weren't going to get relegated. He then had to come out and clarify that he wasn't sleepwalking into the relegation zone, but more trying to G up the players and provide support
sleepwalking is you don't know you're doing
his staff. Wigan 22nd in the league after this one. Very much inside the relegation zone, very much looking for a manager. It all feels too neat to point to Gary Caldwell, who's the current favourite. He's the Exeter City manager. He's done a very, very impressive job at this level with that team. He has fantastic history with Wigan Athletic. Exeter are a club who would find it difficult to stand in his way vis-a-vis compensation. I think they'd be, they are thirsty for some cash, I think it's fair to say. And we understand that there's basically a coach within the Exeter setup, Dan Green, who's essentially kind of next in line anyway. So that will be interesting to see if, when it all lines up like that, will it click into place like a lovely couple of puzzle pieces or not? We will find out. But Ryan Lowe sacked. It's no great surprise. There was very little to suggest that he was going to turn things around. Wigan getting worse and worse and worse in the last few weeks. Cardiff winning at Rotherham. And in quite interesting circumstances, making it just setting the difficulty level to world class by going down to 10 men early on at 0-0.
Yeah, albeit still against Rotherham. Yes, Ryan Wintle sent off for kind of losing the ball and then putting the man back and denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity. And that was after a first 20 or so minutes where very little had kind of happened, but as you'd expect, Cardiff dominating the ball and probably looking the more dangerous of the two teams. But as soon as it's 11v10, it's a very different game. But as we said a lot about Cardiff, it feels like we know what their game model is. Like ideally, they want to dominate the ball, they want to pass it through the lines, and they want to utilise their very good footballers and utilise their width. But when it hasn't always gone their way this season is when often teams who play that way can come unstuck. Whereas they still win games, they still find ways to win. And this was a case, maybe in part through individual quality, and in Kellyman, who scored the first goal with a really nice finish. They've got a player who has a lot of quality, and when he does lead the line in the absence of Selleck, he's obviously a very different player and does it very differently. He normally does it pretty well. Ollie Tanner got the assist for that goal. It was him who also played the ball to Chris Willock, who cut inside and finished well to make it 2-0. And a really nice finish from Isaac Davis, who had come off the bench with 15 or so minutes to go, down our right-hand side, cutting inside and firing at the near posts. Chop made a couple of saves at 1-0. As you'd expect, 11v10. They didn't have it. It wasn't totally dominant, but Cardiff a pretty good value for their win. And if you're a Rotherham fan, even though it's against top of the league, like playing against 10 men at home after 20 minutes and being second best and being beaten 3-0, it's not a great look.
The suggestion was essentially, and you can kind of understand this, even though it obviously doesn't reflect that well on the players, but essentially like Rotherham's game plan was always going to be to play quite direct against this Cardiff side, and it makes complete sense. The problem is when you then have the superiority in terms of you have an extra player, it then feels maybe more natural to try and make the most of that by trying to create situations where you have overloads. That's generally by playing shorter rather than playing long. So it's almost like the red card for Cardiff potentially kind of freaked them out a little bit, because the game that they'd been planning for suddenly wasn't quite the game that they were playing. I do love, from a tactical point of view, your defensive midfielder gets sent off. You're playing 4-3-3, and it's the guy that everything goes through in Wintle. You don't make any subs. You don't need to make any subs. You're already playing a false 9 in Omari Kellyman, who's normally an attacking midfielder. So you just move Robertson back to the 6, Colwill kind of back a little bit to the 8, and then Kellyman back, and you're basically playing strikerless formation. But because Cardiff's style of play gets the ball into wide areas, and it's from there with overlapping or underlapping fullbacks, with Salek in the middle normally, and with the number 8s bombing on, that's when most of their attacks kind of really take shape. You don't need a Salek, you don't need a Kellyman occupying the centre-backs in the middle. You get to the byline and then you've got everyone arriving late. That's where the goals came from. Really, really good to watch. But Lincoln are matching Cardiff City with every step at the moment. 4-1 win at Argyle from behind as well. A great goal from Bim Peppel. Amazing first touch and then left-footed finish. Weaker foot from range in off the post. Brilliant. And Peppel's performance was incredibly encouraging from an Argyle point of view. You've got Tolai, who's absent at the moment. You've got Oseni and Peppel, who are kind of younger project type signings from the summer. And you have to say, Peppel's doing exactly what they would have hoped he was going to do, which is develop over time to suddenly look like he could be the front man if maybe it could be the case that Tolai gets interest this summer and gets another move, which would obviously be that'd be 3 and 3 years for him. But great performance from Peppel, who then took a massive whack to the head, had to come off injured. That didn't help. And at the other end of the pitch, Freddie Draper was doing similarly good things at the top of the pitch for Lincoln. He thumped home a set-piece header with Ashby Hammond just stuck to his line in the Plymouth goal. 2-1 goals probably sums up what I like most about this Lincoln side. Out of possession shape, really good. A sort of a semi-high press, if you like. They weren't all going completely gung-ho, but they were high up the pitch. They were all locked off the easy passes. They tried to force it, Argyle. They gave it away. Loose pass. It got flicked into Moylan, who tucks in from the left-sided midfield role into a kind of number 10 role. Reach overlapped from deep. His cross into the box. Draper's physical presence won a duel with the defender, and it let Hackett at the back post finish really well with his left foot. But when he shoots, there's 5 inside the box. There's 2 locking off the edge of the box as well. And that's only 9 seconds from winning the ball back on halfway. So a good example of Lincoln having different ways to hurt teams. Obviously, the set-piece threat is massive, but also they've added that kind of high press, quick turnovers, and also a goal on the break at the end from Ryan One that made it 4-0. Hackett scored direct from a corner. I'm afraid just a really bad look for Ashby Hammond. I'm not someone that makes a habit out of criticising keepers, but very clearly had a poor game, looked completely stuck to his line, and against a team like Lincoln, everyone knows how they are going to try and approach their set pieces. It's very effective. It feels like he just kind of tried to avoid the issue by staying on his line, but it just led to 2 goals, basically, which are essentially his fault. So 4 goals for Lincoln away from home, 4 wins in a row, winning from behind, just sort of ticking off challenges, ticking off question marks, really. Scoring goals in different ways and still always defending their box really well too. So super impressed by them. Not the only team that's won 4 in a row, George, because Bolton have. Their game against Barnsley was a lively one.
Yeah, bizarre game this. I mean, the first half was as dominant a performance you're going to see for most of the season, probably. Bolton scoring twice early, both of them from set pieces. Dalby with a header for the first, and the second one, both from corners actually, both at the back post. Heads the first one in. Second one, he kind of prods home from close range after it evades everybody. McAtee follows that up with a close range finish as well, to make it 3-0 after 32 minutes. First half stats, 16 shots to 2 in Bolton's favour, 7 shots on target to 1, 4 big chances to 0. 2.03 expected goals to 0.03. Like, I cannot express to you how much better Bolton were. And I reckon there are probably Barnsley fans that left at half time because it was so clear, the gap between the two. Second half, Conor Harrahan made some sweeping changes as you'd expect. Cleary came off, O'Connell came off, McGoldrick came off, Tenai Watson came off. De Givigny.
Nailed it.
Thank you very much. Ogbeta, Phillips and Kelly came on and they were way better. Like, you know, yes, Connell's shot was deflected in from outside the box, and then Phillips finished really well to make it 3-2, and there was half an hour still to play. And they had a couple of chances. Bradshaw had one that was saved, and Ogbeta maybe had the best chance of the lot really late on, which was also saved. So if you're a Bolton fan, you're probably thinking, what happened in that second half? Like, how are we so well on top? We've come close to throwing those 3 points away.
I'm certainly thinking that. Harrahan
will be probably telling everyone to focus on the reaction in the second half and the performance they put in there, and that they won the second half 2-0, which of course they did. But that first half was very, very concerning. So a game to take some big positives for both teams, but also, you know, a couple of negatives too, weirdly. But yeah, that Bolton that first half were irresistible.
Yeah, so Luton beat Bradford 2-1. This one obviously pretty significant with Luton 7th in the league table and Bradford now 6th. They've dropped down over the last few weeks after a difficult run of fixtures and some poor results. They've lost to Cardiff, they've lost to Huddersfield, they've lost to Lincoln, and now they've lost to Luton with a win against Donny in the mix there. So just 4 points between these two teams. Bradford still have a game in hand, so it's not all she wrote, but they need to sort themselves out. They've still got a couple more tricky fixtures in the next couple of weeks. Luton clearly the better side here. My kind of current Luton analysis, I'm not really developing much at the moment because it's basically every time they play at home, I'm quite impressed and they look quite good and they've got a really good long home unbeaten run. Every time I see them play away from home, they look like a different side entirely, and it's hard for me to imagine them winning away games based on the way that they're playing at the moment. So, you know, we can only focus on the game that we're talking about. It was a home game. They looked brilliant. Maybe their best performance that I've seen over the last few weeks. In particular, I'm looking at the midfield three of Jordan Clark, Casey Palmer and Jake Richards. Obviously in Clark and in Palmer, you've got experienced midfielders. Clark, who I just love. I think he offers so much in so many different aspects of play. Casey Palmer, who's playing at this level for the first time in about a decade. He's been at championship level for that long, and the quality that he's showing, he seems to have slotted straight in, playing a bit deeper than maybe we've seen him play before, and looking excellent. Palmer's someone who quite often has an excellent month before drifting away for a little bit, so the onus is on him to kind of keep this form up between now and the end of the season. And then Jake Richards, who's the youngster, the 18-year-old they signed from Exeter, scoring the first goal with a brilliant, powerful strike from range. And Jordan Clark set up Shaden Morris for the second. Humphrey scoring in injury time for Bradford, who did create one or two chances, including the goal, through long passes forward on the break, which is something that Luton and their defenders will need to get a little bit stronger at defending. But comfy win for Luton, impressive performance. And Huddersfield 2-2 at home to Blackpool. It's dropped points to an extent, but they also came back from 2-0 down here. Blackpool scoring their first two shots in the game after quite a strong strong Huddersfield start. Fletcher finishing an assist from Leighton Clarkson, who got a lot of love from Pools fans for his performance. He signed from Aberdeen on deadline day. Karoy Anderson, another new signing, heading home from across from Ruel Walters, another new signing. Like, Blackpool's injury record this season is absolutely horrific. You have to say it's quite a nice privilege for Ian Evatt to have the funds to add more players like the ones they bought in the summer in January. If they were to have everyone fit, they would have an incredible squad, I think. And it was Huddersfield's squad, Liam Manning's bench, that came to the rescue from 2-0 down. Sorensen came on for Gooch and he set up Marcus Harness. And then Barley Mumba, who started the game, he set up Cameron Asher for a back post header to equalise. Kasumu, Bobby Wales, Michael Miller, all off the bench too, performing well. So Huddersfield coming back to draw that game from 2-0 down. Stockport drew 0 with Leyton Orient, dropped points at home for them, and fortunate to a certain extent. Not an amazing performance from them again, just like it wasn't really against Argyle last time out. Red card for Dakers Cogley for 2 yellows, and then they had Josh Stokes to thank for a goal line clearance later on after an Orient shot had beaten the keeper. So 0-0 there. A 4-0 win. George came at Adams Park. Wycombe thumping Doncaster. We thought they might be back in business, but not quite.
In what was another disastrous betting show for me, I queried whether or not Wycombe would find this easy given Doncaster's recent form. Yeah, they did. They found it really easy. It was a dominant performance, a really good win, completely deserving of the 4-0 scoreline. The defensive unit were rock solid throughout. The threat of Elliot Lee, of Hakeem Adelican, of Molyneux, of Bailey, of Clifton didn't really land a blow at all, and it was Wycombe who kind of poured forward and created plenty of chances. Morley scoring with a nice finish after a well-worked routine. Corley Woodrow hitting the crossbar and reacting quickest to divert home the second time. Brilliant finish from Fred Onyedimna, leading the line, playing up front again with a curled finish into the bottom right-hand corner from outside the area. Followed up with Mullins scoring a nice left-footed finish to make it 4-0. And yeah, this is just a game where one team turned up and in every single facet were better than the opposition, and that was reflected in the scoreline. So Wycombe going through a good little period now after a good start under Duff that dropped off a little bit. I think it's now 4 wins in their last 6 in the league. So, and just on the fringes of the playoffs. Big game for them away at Reading coming up on Saturday.
6 points off the playoffs, in good form. Wycombe. Wimbledon, wow, big for them. 3-2 win at home to Reading. Real ding-dong game. They were ahead twice before Reading came back into it. And then Wimbledon got the winner as well. Omar Bougil, the one that I want to talk about, despite the fact that Marcus Brown scored a hat-trick. Because I think Bougil had a big Bougil game, and I think without that, Brown doesn't score his goals. The first goal, Big Omar secures it, back to goal, shrugs off defenders, looks up, finds Nkeng on the left side, his ball across, tapped in by Marcus Brown. And like those 3 players and that goal, I guess, far be it from me to get to go too deep into things. That sums up to me what Wimbledon need to be at this level, right? You've got Bougil, the 32-year-old target man that doesn't really score, has never played as high as League One before this season, but is adapting because he's got a particular set of skills. The 18-year-old academy product that Wimbledon have to produce as part of their business model, but also have been about as good as anyone at producing young players over the last 5 years. And then the former big talent in Marcus Brown that you know very well, who came from a top-level academy, has bounced down and down and down the leagues, finally ending up in League Two, despite having talent way above that because of injuries and inconsistencies, but who after a year of being kind of nurtured and having some good spells and some less good spells for Wimbledon, is showing that he can be a top player for this level, and scored a hat-trick here. Jack Merritt scored his customary goal for Reading. He has scored in 12 of 16 starts in League One this season. Quite remarkable numbers. Joel Pereira had a bit of a howler that led up to Bougil setting up Marcus Brown for the second, but Reading hit back again quite quickly with a set-piece goal. Paudie O'Connor heading across for his centre-back partner Dorset to score. And I guess Reading, based on the league table, based on their form under Liam Richardson and Wimbledon's form recently, they might have felt they could use that and go on and win it. But quick pass forward into Bougil again. He's got midfield runners off him. Nice layoff into Maycock. Threaded ball into Brown for a hat-trick. 10 for the season for Brown. 3 super valuable points for Dons after a really sticky couple of months. Lots of good stuff shown as well. This wasn't some lucky, fortunate, scored every shot type performance. They just played well, and they need to do that a little bit more. If they could play this starting 11 this exact way, basically, for the next 6 weeks, They should pick up enough wins to have a decent gap between themselves and the relegation zone when kind of April comes around. It's currently 6 points. The big thing is not just 6 points gap to the relegation zone, but there's 6 teams beneath or between them and the relegation zone as well. So I always think it's worth pointing that out when you're studying league tables. It's tempting just to stop at the points difference between yourself and the relegation zone.
Who do you think you're talking to?
But if there are 6 teams between that and you as well,
yeah,
they all have to get above you, not just one of them. George, Northampton found their shooting boots in the last week or so. They beat Stevenage 3-1.
They did, yeah. First goal coming from Forbes from a set piece. Jamie Reid equalising in front of the Northampton fans and gesturing towards them to be quiet, which Tom Eaves then, returned the favour, having missed a penalty, but prodding home the rebound to make it 2-1 just before half time. Now, I was in my kind of research for this, I was a bit surprised because Stevenage, I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on Stevenage, like a side that don't give much away for the most part, although we're seeing teams find it a bit easier to create chances against them recently. Not the most relentless attacking side, don't create huge amount of chances, but relatively efficient in front of goal. So when I saw that at Northampton they had, in being beaten 3-1, had amassed an XG of 3.26 and had missed seven big chances and 6 big chances. Sorry, had created 7 big chances and missed 6 of them. I was pretty surprised. And then I saw just...
You thought, I can't wait to watch the tape.
What has happened here? And it turns out there is just a almighty... Well, it's not even that bad. There is a goal mouth scramble.
It's a great scramble.
Basically results in about 5 shots, or even 4, according to Hugh, who counted them from NTT20.com, that are all basically ricocheting everywhere on the goal line but don't go in. And just a word of warning here, and this is where actually numbers can be misleading, is that passage of play that lasts about 10 seconds seems to have been attributed like a 2.4 expected goals for the total amount for Stevenage, which is frankly ridiculous because obviously one passage of play can only yield 1 goal.
Yeah.
So yeah, as someone who will always say, the slave to the data, you got to look at this stuff. That is noisy as anything. I've got a headache. So ignore that if you're thinking that this is going to be a sign of Stevenage's misfortune. It was the goal mouth scramble was at 2-1. It would have been, a big goal had it gone in, and Northampton had to defend for their lives in order to stop it from doing so. And then Hoskins made the point safe with an injury time goal to make it 3-1. So a big win for Northampton. Stevenage and their playoff dream is slowly being extinguished. As we've kind of pointed out a couple of times, they are only 10 points clear of the bottom 4, and they aren't playing well. And it won't take too long of a bad run for that 10 points to become very little indeed. So has to be, I still believe in Alex Ravel, and I believe that they will have enough games this season where they are very good at the back and they do frustrate the opposition. But I wouldn't book any tickets to the beach, is what I'm saying at this point.
And there are also, and this is a positive thing for them, everything you've said is clinically true. There are also 11 teams between them and the relegation zone. And I know, and you've said it before, and you are right, that if you go on an historically bad run, most of the teams will get above you because they won't be going on the historically bad run necessary to have Stevenage get relegated. But they're on 42 points already with 17 games to go. And it's hard to imagine that you'll need much more than 48, 49 to stay up. So, but yes, they are playing poorly. Mansfield 0, Exeter 0 was a match that happened. The teams exchanging jabs in the first half, and then Mansfield getting a bit stronger in the second, but not much cutting edge. 4 draws in a row for them after their run of 4 wins. And Vale drew 2-2 with Burton Albion, which is very lively. Vale going ahead twice. Lovely Ethan Archer free kick into the top corner. Ben Wayne scored, which doesn't happen very often. He looked very happy about it. Jake X. Beasley does score a lot, did score a lot here twice, specifically both close range finishes, as is his addiction. Both teams hit the bar. Vale had one off the line, which is quite an exciting ding-dong affair between two relegation scrappers. In some ways, not an ideal result for either, I would suggest. I think for Burton, you could probably say getting a point on the road cannot ever be seen as a disaster in League One, but for Vale, it was the first of 2 games against bottom 5 teams with Donny to come midweek. And, well, they're 11 points behind Donny, but they've got 2 games in hand over them. So it feels like they really, really, really need to win that one. Otherwise, any talk of miracle survivals will be extinguished. Entertaining weekend in League One. Thanks for watching and or listening to this recap. Got the same for the Championship and League Two, wherever you found this one. Cheers. Go well.